Pure Land Buddhism might suggest an otherworldly orientation, but its primary focus is on the here and now. Not the here and now grasped by the controlling ego self, but the here and now cherished as a gift of life itself, to be lived creatively and gratefully, granted us by boundless compassion. The bountifulness of great compassion makes possible our liberation from the iron cage of our own making. Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu, Namo Amida Butsu. Namandos, Namandos, Namandos. Good morning. Today we are celebrating BCSF's Ohigan service, which is observed twice a year during the spring equinox and the fall equinox, when day and night are roughly equal in terms of length. The equinoxes have been celebrated throughout history in many ancient cultures. I remember visiting Machu Picchu in Peru and seeing an ancient stone monument called Waka, which means sacred. And this massive stone carving served quite accurately as a solar clock to mark the dates of the equinoxes and solstices. And when traveling in the Yucatan in Mexico, I climbed a great pyramid that the Mayans built called El Castillo, and in the ancient city complex of Chichen Itza. And remarkably, this pyramid was built so that on the equinoxes, it looks as if a snake made of light shadows slithers down the pyramid's steep steps from the very top all the way down to the bottom, which is roughly 100 feet or 10 stories. So for many in the past, just as today, the equinox is an opportunity to remind us of our deep connection to the cycles of the earth, and the cycles in nature, the cycles in our life, the cycles of arising and falling away, arising and falling away, as the Buddha referred to it. Last week, we hit the half-year mark since shelter in place was initiated here in San Francisco on March 16th. And during these past 6 months, since our spring Ohigan service, we've experienced the horrific COVID-19 pandemic with over 943 million deaths worldwide. And of course, the 200,000 deaths, and sadly climbing here in the United States. On top of this pandemic, we've also experienced massive wildfires, unhealthy to toxic air qualities, and of course, the largest social justice movement in decades. And in response to all of this, I see an amazing coming together by many people to meet these challenges and to embrace the opportunities as we navigate these unfamiliar and uncharted waters. In Buddhism, there's an expression of the beginner's mind. Suzuki Roshi once said, "In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the expert's, there are few." So given that most of us were not around during the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, all of this has had to be approached with a beginner's mind. And with a beginner's mind, we've initiated distance learning for our kids, which isn't a replacement for in-school learning, but it is an opportunity to keep educating them while the pandemic is surging. And for those of us privileged to do so, many of us are now working from home. And we're also now seeing discussions arise around systemic racism in areas that have never really examine their roles in mitigating the inequities. And at BCSF, we too have had to embrace a beginner's mind as we endeavored to keep our community connected with our online YouTube services, our Zoom services, our phone and dial-a service. We are also now having Zoom board meetings and Zoom committee meetings. And personally, many of us have had to learn Zoom and other meeting platforms in order to just stay connected to our family and our friends. So I approached this fall Ohigan with a tender heart for the life-changing challenges that have unfolded over these past 6 months. And also with a deep appreciation for the grace and compassion that has manifested in keeping our temple community connected with continuity. So Ohigan, which originated in Japan, is really a time to reflect on the nature of our true self, which is deeply hidden behind our self-cherishing, our self-centeredness, our selfishness, that iron cage of our own making, as Reverend Tai Tietso Uno explained in the opening passage. Higan translates as other shore, and it's a metaphor for crossing from this shore blind passions, greed, anger, ignorance, to the other shore of nirvana or perfect peace. By contrast, Shigan means this shore and is a metaphor for this shore of samsara, the everyday world in which we live, which is often unsatisfactory and painful. As Shin Buddhists, we are part of the larger Mahayana tradition that teaches the path of the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva is a being who, from their very first aspiration of wanting liberation, seeks to attain it not just for themselves, but for all sentient beings. This is truly an appreciation of our profound interdependence and the workings of boundless wisdom and compassion. The expression of the Bodhisattva practice is the 6 paramitas, or perfections, those activities that help to guide one to the other shore of liberation. With the Sanskrit name first and the English translation following, here are the 6 paramitas. The first is called dana, or generosity. It's a practice of giving freely with an open heart to what is needed by others. This could be given with our words, our thoughts, or our actions. The second is sila, morality, ethical conduct. It's developing healthy behaviors. Buddhism encourages the development of the threefold disciplined behaviors of body, speech, and mind. What we say, what we do, and what we think matters. The third paramita is called khasanti, or patience. It's the understanding that that a person who is patient can endure and be able to overcome many difficulties. With patience, we can develop an open heart, allowing frustration and anger to diminish. The fourth is virya, effort or perseverance. It's to strive with one's whole heart, not for short periods of concentrated effort, but continuously over long periods. Spiritual strength enables one to continue on without giving up in the face of difficulties or challenges. The fifth is dhyana, meditation or contemplation. The practice of contemplation helps one to develop the other paramitas. It allows the person to concentrate upon the mind, to learn to understand it, and perhaps even penetrate the mind's delusions and gain some insight into ultimate reality. The 6th paramita is prajna, wisdom or deep insight, to see things as they are without the prejudiced and biased perspectives that come from within. It is the letting go of opinions and concepts that create separation and dualities of you and me, us and them. For me, the 6 paramitas act as a helpful guide as I walk this path of impermanence and interdependence. My dad was a carpenter, and there's a tool called the plummet. It's commonly known as the Plum Bob. And it's a weight, usually with a pointed tip on the bottom, and it's suspended by a string. And it's used in construction as a vertical reference line or a plumb line. And so I often think of the 6 paramitas as that plumb bob, which provides a reference line, reminding me of the middle way of kindness and compassion. I think the paramitas are especially helpful in these sometimes difficult and always unknown times of our life, when emotions are deep and confusion often arises. In Jodo Shinshu, the emphasis is on expressing gratitude for the working of the primal vow, that bodhisattva vow of great compassion. In the sacred story of our tradition, Bodhisattva Dharmakara fulfilled this vow through the practice of the 6 paramitas and other great spiritual endeavors. So in Shin, the paramitas are really acts of gratitude for living this present moment in interconnectedness with all living beings. Reverend Earl Ikeda explained that, quote, as Jodo Shinshu followers, our living the Nembutsu life is itself the Bodhisattva practice of perfection. As Shinran taught, Nembutsu is the mind of Amida, perfect wisdom and compassion. Normally, our lives are defined by a lack of perfection, by disharmony and struggle. And Shinran himself struggled throughout his life and realized that perfection, which is limitless, could never be achieved through his own limited efforts. He learned that it is only through total reliance on Amida Tathagata, the true reality of wisdom and compassion, that we can understand the meaning of perfection in our lives, unquote. During this fall Ohigan, may we take the time to recall the 6 perfections of generosity, morality, patience, perseverance, contemplation, and understanding, and consider how they relate to our own life. What is the path we're following? Does it benefit others or only myself? As the working of boundless wisdom and compassion makes itself known, are we moved in grateful response to reconnect with all beings? These are the questions I am asking myself on this fall Ohigan weekend. Please join me in Gasho as we hear the words of Shinran from the hymns of the Pure Land Masters. To take refuge with single-mindedness in the Buddha of unhindered light filling the 10 quarters is, in the words of Vasubandhu, the mind that aspires to attain Buddhahood. And the mind that aspires to attain Buddhahood is the mind to liberate all sentient beings. And the mind to liberate all sentient beings is true and real Shinjin, which is Amida's benefiting of others. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandots. 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 Thank you for joining us this morning. Let's stay safe and healthy by wearing our masks and maintaining physical distancing. And let's continue to stay connected. Take care.